Mm. Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. You ever wonder why you do the things you do? Well, choice theory and reality therapy is a good way of helping us to see what we can do more effectively. And so we have this every Wednesday at 10 o'clock on Central Time. So it depends on where you are. So thanks for being here. And our speaker today is Nancy Herrick, and she is senior faculty with the Glasser Institute for Choice Theory. And Nancy is well versed in just everything. It's always a pleasure to have you here. So hello, Nancy. Welcome.
Hi, I'm glad to be here.
And just a reminder to our guests that after the talk, we will close the airways and then we'll be open for you to make comments or ask questions. So as Nancy presents, you may want to take notes so you'll have something to ask her a question about or make a comment about it. So Nancy, take it away.
Thank you. So I am going to help have this be a little bit interactive. So I'm going to be asking you to, to throw in some ideas and some of your own perspectives. So you may want to turn your mutes off after, in a minute or two here. But let me get started. I'll pull up my screen here. So now, can everyone see my screen?
It's good.
Okay. So I need to get this where I can get it so I can see it. Okay, there we go. Okay. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about parenting with choice theory in mind, because most of us have learned choice theory now. How much we apply it in our lives and how much we depend on it for how we communicate with each other is quite really, I didn't know this when my kids were growing up. I didn't know it until they were teenagers and, in getting ready to go to college. But if I'd had this, and I've heard other people say that, if I'd learned this when my kids were little, they would be different and I would be different and we would have a different relationship. So this is ideas from choice theory. I'm pulling from several different books by other faculty and also from Glasser. So let's see here. Okay, now. So first of all, we're going to look at kind of what we're going to do. This is sort of an overview. We're going to brainstorm a little bit how choice theory can make a difference when you're trying to raise children. And then we're going to evaluate the voices in your head. You're going to evaluate the voices in your head regarding parenting. Like, what are your beliefs or what is your thinking about parenting? And then becoming aware of our needs and also of your child's needs, because in choice theory, we understand that everyone has needs and that they're different at different times as far as the strength of them, and depending on how they're behaving is what need they're trying to match at that point and so forth. So what are we teaching with our behavior? Because what we know is that kids learn from watching and listening to us. So to everyone around them and mainly to parents. So how does the parent's behavior influence the child? We may get to this point, we may not. I don't know. It's kind of an extra piece that we can maybe look at. And then best and worst, well, I'm going to ask you to give me some ideas of what's worked for you and so forth, or what you tried and didn't work, maybe, perhaps. Anyway, so let's look at the first. Let's see if I do this right. So how can we use choice theory to inform our parenting style? So how many of you, and this is why I'm going to ask you guys to open up your mics, how many of you have children? Okay.
I don't.
Okay. And how many have children still at home? So, okay. So if you've never been a parent, then, this will help you. If you look at this will help you to get along with your marriage partner, your significant other, with your parents, because everybody's got parents has had parents at one time or another. And maybe they're still living. And also about thinking about the people you work with, because a lot of this will pertain to them also. So where do our parenting skills and knowledge come from? Are we born knowing how to be a parent? Somebody answer that for me.
Oh,
Lenny?
Not
no.
hardly.
Okay, Alice, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I didn't know the first thing about parenting.
So were you afraid? Were you excited?
Well, you know, I didn't babysit for young kids. I didn't have any cousins younger than me, really, except for one, Sue. So I never held a baby, I don't think. So, I was nervous. I was nervous, and
Yeah.
after the first year or two, I got it. Poor kid.
So where did the parenting skills or knowledge come from that you relied on?
Probably my mother.
Yeah, it's that little
Mhm.
voice in our head about our mother or our dad or maybe an aunt or someone who raised us. So
Well, my mother would come over and help me, and so.
yeah. And then when she
Also
wasn't
think
there, you would
TV.
still hear her voice, right?
What'd you say, Sue? TV?
I would also think TV. We were watching The Perfect Parents on TV,
Yeah.
what they were doing.
Could
Yeah, there
be.
were a lot.
So-
Yeah, in days and age when I was raising kids, there were a lot of family programs with parents, like
Right,
Father Knows
right.
Best, and
Right.
yeah, family.
Well, there are
affairs.
now. There still are now. It's just an issue of,
They're a little
what's
different
going
now.
on. Yeah, they're definitely different, but life is different. So,
Right. Yeah. So babies aren't meant to be molded. They're meant to be unfolded. And that's what I want to
Makes
look at,
sense.
because this is a choice theory concept that we have to, if we can think about this, we will stop trying to coerce and control our kids. So this is a real important piece for teachers, especially because they think they have to control. How many of you as parents felt like you had to control your kids?
Yeah,
Okay.
sounds about right.
Yeah, many people think that. And they have that assumption that I have to control my child so they'll do the right thing. So what we know is choice theory, of course. Who can we control?
Only ourselves.
Yeah, there you go. Only ourselves. So if all behavior is purposeful, our choice theory believes, and all our behavior is the control of our perceptions, we have to behave to match the pictures in our quality world. And our quality world pictures are chosen based on our perceptions and the strengths of our needs. So we'll talk a little more about the strengths of our needs in a few minutes, and how children begin to create these quality world pictures. So I believe that kids have a quality world picture almost at gestation, because when I watched one of my grandsons, second grandson, as a brand new infant, like 3-4 hours old, I saw that he already had some knowledge of this external world that he was now living in, and even at that age, because I took my older grandson, who was about 3, and I took him to the hospital to see mom and the new baby about 2 hours after the baby was born. And when we got into the hallway, I thought I better knock and see if it's okay for us to come in. So I knocked and I said to my daughter, I said, is the baby there? And she said, yes. And I said, is it okay for Jack to come in? She said, yes. So we walked in, and as soon as we opened the door to walk in, Jack goes, hey, mommy, and goes to running to hug her, right? And the baby, who'd been laying quietly asleep in mom's arms, lifted its head as much as a baby can do, turned its face to look for where that voice was coming from. And as soon as Jack continued to talk to mommy and hug her and, give her, I'm glad to see you, and this is the new year, new brother, and all this, the baby settled back down again and went back to sleep. So I believe that baby had some knowledge of that voice, and he was looking at 2 or 3 hours of age, he was looking to see where that came from, so that he could recognize that voice every time it came up in his life. We can only control our own behavior. And even at birth, children have very good ways of controlling their behavior. So Glasser used to say we're born with survival instincts, and the only emotion is usually satisfaction or uncomfort or pain, and anger. So we have those behaviors built into us. And I think there's probably more, but at least we can see that in newborns. And how do children learn? Well, they learn from their environment. All we can do is take information in from our environment, and we take it in through our perceptual system. So this comes from Nancy Buck's Peaceful Parenting, and I really like this a lot. Let me see. I don't know if I've got this in a place where you can, let's see if I can move this. Come on, move around here. Oh, come on. No, it's not going to do it. Oh, now I'm back. Now I went back. All right. Anyway, can you see the whole screen, or am I covering part of it? You can see the whole screen. Okay.
We're good.
When Nancy was doing her research for her PhD study, she researched child development, and she realized, as she was raising two twin boys, that we learn how to get pictures to put into our quality world by our perceptual system and sense of the environment around us. And we usually learn she said, I think we learn in about in a cyclical process. So starting out at birth, when we're down here at birth, we have to learn what love is. We have to know what nurture is. We have to know who's going to hold us and take care of us. That's the first picture we put in. Usually it's mom or some caregiver. And now I know what it feels like to be comfortable, because I've got someone who's holding me and cradling me or swaddling me or whatever, and I'm comfortable. Then I also am learning, besides love and belonging, I'm also learning something about survival. So I'm learning that if I'm in pain, I have this built-in behavior to anger and cry. And if I do, who comes to help me? And that's another, and now I've got more love and belonging pictures. Okay. And I also have pictures of what pain looks like and feels like to me. And I don't like it. And I'm going to start to work on putting more pictures in of pleasure in my quality world. And as we grow, and we're going to move on from this, you can see it's the cooperative needs are love and belonging and fun, which we are when we're learning. And the competitive needs are power and freedom. And survival just kind of is that central post that holds us all together. So if we look at childhood, early on, we start out by looking for the cooperative needs. Who cooperates with us to help us to put pictures into our quality world? Who makes it fun? Who smiles at me? Who cares about me? Who holds me? And then eventually we start to look at what happens when I cry. And now I'm learning I have some power. Somebody comes and picks me up. So I'm learning behaviors for power and freedom. So, and I'm learning pictures of who it is in my life that's going to help me with that. So I'll kind of look at it this way, but we have love and belonging and fun and learning. I'm learning everything about my surroundings very, very, very early. And those are my cooperative needs. Once I get a few pictures for that, then I start to look at what happens when I'm not comfortable. And I start to learn about the competitive needs. Can I cry and get help? Can I move around? Can I flail my arms or kick my legs to get myself more comfortable? What do I need to do to be more comfortable? So these are competitive because sometimes they are conflict with the love and belonging needs. I don't want mom to hold me anymore. I want mom to let me be so I can stretch out. My second grandson, when you picked him up, if he wasn't happy or he didn't want to be picked up or he wanted more freedom, he would just stretch his arms and legs out and really stiff. And it was very hard to pick him up and even hold him. But he wanted to be left alone. As soon as you'd lay him down, he would soothe himself and go right to sleep. If you tried to pick him up and bounce him or, cajole him, he didn't want that. And he lays low really quickly. So these needs are kind of, you look at the cooperative needs, and then we're starting to work on the competitive ones. Freedom and power sometimes are competition with each other in our quality worlds, but they also sometimes are in competition with love and belonging and with learning. So then it goes back to, once we get a few of these pictures, then we go back to, let's get some more about fun and learning, and who else in my life will pay attention to me besides mom and dad and my big brother. And then what do I have to do to get my big brother to leave me alone? You see, so I keep learning new pictures all the time and putting them in. So from birth to 2, we are mostly putting in pictures for cooperative needs, mostly love and belonging and learning about the world, fun need, finding out how things are good and bad. It's learning to manipulate your hands so you can pick things up, learning to make different cries or different sounds that are going to give people information, because before we're 2, we're starting to get a few vocabulary words and a little bit of words to talk and to be able to communicate with words. But mostly we're communicating with the sounds of our voice and the way we move our body. And then at 2, we really move into this real strong need for competitive quality world pictures. And this is where you hear no. Now, the child's been hearing no from these parents all along, but at 2, he's now got the picture. He knows if he doesn't want something, and just like if mommy doesn't want him to do something, she says no. So if I don't want to do something, I say no. And no becomes one of his favorite words. So we go, why in the world is this terrible 2 so awful? Because he's trying to learn how to get what he wants without getting it from someone else. And so it's learning about the power and the freedom. And so no is one of his favorite words. He fusses a lot, he whines a lot, because he wants people to leave him alone, give him a chance. And then it goes back to by 3, they're starting to learn. Actually, they bump it up a little bit on whining and complaining. And so it kind of becomes traumatic, because now they've figured out what really does turn mom and dad on, what really does get them to notice me, and what does get me noticed with peers around me. And I start to learn how to share and share my toys and manipulate my toys and learn new things about the world. But by the time kids are 5 and getting ready to go to school, they need to have quite a few really good pictures and understanding of the world. So they have cooperative pictures and competitive pictures in their quality world. Because at 5, they need to learn how to be somewhat independent. They can't depend on mom any longer. So this is a cyclical process. And Nancy Buck said she thinks it took about every 6 months, they moved from cooperative needs to competitive and then back again from 2 to 5. And at 5, it became maybe a little bit longer. They'd stay in one level of working more on love and belonging or power and freedom needs, depending on what was going on. So they might stay there a little longer till they got more and more vivid pictures. But by the time kids are 8 or 9, they're now starting to question the parents' values. They've learned the value systems of the parents and the household. But by 8 and 9, they've learned other people have different values and different ideas. So now I'm starting to question these values. And this is where you hear kids get really argumentative. It's like, but mom, well, he does this and he does that. And so we have to learn how to listen for what are they trying to accomplish. They're trying to get new pictures of values and what values really are important to them. Then the challenge in the teenage years, of course, is for them, because they start to move to peers as their role models, then the challenge is to challenge all the beliefs that I've ever had, all the values that I've ever had growing up. And so now sometimes they become very challenging. Sometimes they are challenging to their peers, but not to their home situations. So we learn and put those quality world pictures in because of our perceptual system, how we take in the information. And that, what is our perceptual system comprised of? Somebody tell me, what are the parts of our perceptual system? How do we perceive the world?
Through knowledge, through our values.
Schemas.
Okay,
Yes,
we
our
perceive
specific
the world
schemas.
through our eyes, through our
Our
hearing,
senses.
our senses, yeah, through our senses. And that's how we decide whether or not this is going to be good for me or not, and create our value systems. Yeah. So this is a little more on ages and stages. So from 0 to 1, they're listening and watching everything you do, especially facial features, especially smiles, anger, tone of voice. All these things are very important to 0 to 1. They have to make sense of that environment. When is it safe? When is it not safe? When is it loving? When is it not loving? And then between 1 and 2, they begin to manipulate their environment. That's when they handle their hand dexterity and being able to learn to walk and run and talk. Then we have, like I just talked about, the terrible 2s and traumatic 3s. That's when they've gained words, and now they know that words work. And I have a really good power need can be met by using the word no. It works. Okay, I get freedom if I say no. Okay. And then from 3 to 5, we have to recognize the values and beliefs of our home situation so that I've gained trust and some independence by the time I get to 5 and going off to school. Then 6 to 11, this is where we're moving back and forth quite often with different kinds of needs, quality world pictures being added. And that's comparing my family's values and what we do in our house to what happens at school, what happens in somebody else's house, what happens at grandma's. And this is where we believe probably sexual identity gets set more, is at that level. They may have had a different knowledge. Whoops, I went back. They may have had a different knowledge. No, it doesn't want to do it. Of sexual identity, maybe wondering, maybe not feeling comfortable, whatever. But by 6 to 11, somewhere in there, their sexual identity really starts to show up in their behaviors. And then in 11 to 18, like I said, we're more focused on family, and we start to challenge the value systems of our family and begin to establish our own. And by 19 to 24, we're hoping as parents that they have learned what are going to be their lifelong beliefs and values and be able to create their own family structure. So what can we do as a parent? We're a role model. Everything that happens, everything we do and say when the child is around, they're listening and watching at all levels of growth. What do they need to thrive? And this comes from Perry Good's Helping Kids Help Themselves. She says they need 3 things. They need information. They need understanding of the world around them and information. And you can only give them information when they want it. So if you ever tried to give a 2-year-old information and they didn't want it, it went right in one ear and right out the other. They never even heard you. So you can inform kids of things when they are looking for that information. Then you can also encourage and recognize. And when I say recognize, I'm talking about being supportive of where they are and what they're trying to accomplish. And all of this comes by your involvement with your child. So, and then Glasser used to talk about, he said there's this 4 parts types of behaviors that you can use as a role model. You can do things for children, which we do a lot when they're infants. We can do things to them, like teaching them new things or showing them new things or walking through something with them. And we're going to do all of those things as they need them up until the time that they need to learn some independence. And then we need to know how to leave them alone and let them learn on their own. So we have to walk through these 4 different processes of when we're working with kids. So parents' roles are and responsibilities. What do we want for our kids? We want them to be independent, we want them to be responsible, and we want them to be critical thinkers. And what do? Most of us yell and tell. Right? We try to give them information when they're not ready for it. And when they don't listen, we make it louder. And if they still don't listen, we begin nagging. But we yell and tell. And then we stand and demand. Is this helping our kids? They're listening. What are we teaching them when we yell, when we tell, when we stand? and in their face and demand something. We're teaching them that works. So what do you think they're learning? They're learning how to put those in for pictures that might be helpful. But what we want to be doing is sharing by informing when they're ready for it, encouraging and supporting them, and recognizing when they're doing things right. So and caring and showing our appreciation and our care about them at all times. So this is a kind of a picture. What is this little kid learning? Look at his dad back here, yelling and screaming at the umpire or the coach or whoever. What's this child learning? What's dad doing? Well, this is a way to get power. He doesn't look very happy about it, but I'm wondering if he might even try it with his friends. Maybe. What do they learn if we coerce them? What do we learn if they yell and tell, if we stand and demand? They learn to hide. They learn to lie, to cheat, to guilt themselves, or to blame or criticize others. They learn to bully. So these are things we have to be very careful that we don't do in our parenting model. We do not coerce. We do not use external controlling behaviors. So what do? We have to listen. Why is listening one of the very first top three here? Listening, supporting, encouraging, right? Very important. If we can't do those things and let go of all those disconnecting habits, the kids will learn the disconnecting habits. And that's not what we want. So we have to be these things. We have to be a good listener. We have to be supportive. We have to encourage. Even if they make mistakes, we have to let that go and just help them to move forward, learn something new. We have to respect them as individuals. They have needs. I have needs. They have needs. We have to respect the fact that we each have needs. So sometimes we need to negotiate. What do we each need here? How can we get along together and accept and trust each other and respect each other? These are things you have to do as a role model for kids. So all engines are different. This comes from the Get Happier program. And you say that we have different needs, strengths, and we develop that by all the quality world pictures that we put in. And sometimes, even though maybe our strongest strength, or the one that we rely on the most, maybe that was given to us maybe genetically at a more powerful level, sometimes that's one we put in the background for now because it doesn't work right now. For instance, my highest need is freedom. So if I can't just be free and do what I want when I want to do it, and I've got something that's hanging over my head, I need to finish this project, or I need to complete this paperwork or whatever, I might put that back and not, excuse me, I'm going backwards here. I might put that back and not really pay that much attention to it at the moment, even though I know that's my highest need. But maybe right now I have to look at my power need. How can I be confident, courageous to get the work done, and then I can be free? Or how can I learn a better way to get this done so I can be free? So oftentimes even though one of our needs is stronger and is more dominant in choosing our quality world pictures, we can subject other needs at different times in our lives. Okay. So this is, what are the needs, strengths of your child? If you can learn this, can we teach children choice theory? And my answer is yes. I don't know about you, but my answer is yes. We can teach it as early as 1 and 2. As soon as they're recognizing you as someone that they care about, you can begin to teach choice theory. So how do we do that? What is your kid? If your kid has the need, strength of love and belonging is his strongest need, what would you say the characteristics of that child would be? How would you know that that was his strongest need? What will you see of your child doing? This is when I need you to talk to me.
Wanting to have people around him or her.
Okay.
Yeah.
Watching, you'll see him reaching out for help. You'll see him asking for you to pick him up a lot, asking for you to go walk with him, hold his hand, be there for him. Okay.
Tugging on your skirt, your dress, your pants,
Yeah.
your arm.
Yeah.
Mommy, daddy.
Yeah. Yeah. So probably love and belonging. Okay. And do you think this little child feels love and belonging at that moment? She's kind of being restricted. Her mom's kind of got her hands tied here. But do you think there's love and belonging there? Her face looks like there might be, but maybe she's being a little restricted. We don't know. But if she is a love and belonging child, she probably loves to have mom hold her tight. Okay, so we're going to see body language of pushing, pulling, reaching, asking for something, and look to see who cares, who's paying attention. What if the child's need strength is strongest is power? Okay, we're looking now at confidence, wanting to try new things, to get really good at it, to be organized. This is power. So look at this little kid. He's got a high power need. He's loving all this, putting all this stuff together. So what do we see from a little child who has a high power need? What will we see and hear?
Grabbing stuff out of the hands of other kids.
Yep, it wants to have it. Yep, they want to have my toy when I want it. Okay. Or
Independent, being
Yeah.
very independent.
trying to
I'm
be
sorry.
independent. Yep. Pushing the glass away when you try to give him something to drink. He doesn't want it right now. He wanting order in his life. He wants things like even a really young child will start to put things in a line as toys or whatever. Sue, have you got an idea? What do you see a little child do that has a high
Well,
need for power?
When he has a high power need. I think it's a lot of, look at me, look at what I'm doing, give me applause.
Yeah, okay.
Be real-
Pay attention. Yeah, pay attention.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of no.
A lot of no when they're two, yeah, and then eventually they'll say, look, because they don't know isn't going to work anymore. But yeah, so they're looking for facial expressions that say I'm paying attention. They're looking for they'll look at you to see, like if a little kid falls down out in the street, he'll look up to see if there's anybody watching. If there's somebody watching and he's a love and belonging kid, he'll probably start to cry. If he's a power kid, he'll shake himself off and get back on the bicycle or pick himself up
And laugh.
Yeah. So we can tell sort of what their stronger need is or what need they're trying to match at that moment in time. Okay. Let's look at freedom. What is a freedom kid? What kinds of behaviors do you see from freedom children?
Wanders. They wander away.
Yeah, they wander and they're not unhappy. They're not scared. It's okay.
Curious.
Curious. Yeah, I have to explore everything. I want to try everything. And I don't have to get it right. It's not that important. The power kid wants to get it right. The freedom kid just wants to do it. They don't care whether it's right or wrong. Just try it. How about fun? What is a fun child looking for?
Play.
Yep, play, because that's how they learn to manipulate things. So play. So set things up for themselves so they can learn a new way. They'll explore by building their blocks higher than anybody else has done it, and see what's going to happen. I think that what is that? Is it Jumanji game? The one that you apply all the blocks all up and then you have to take one out, see if it holds. Jenga game. Yeah. This is great for kids who have high fun need because they want to see if they can do this. And they're learning how does that pile have to be supported. So, okay. So in choice theory, we're trying to teach children the internal control aspects of our behavior and how we're picking and choosing our quality world pictures, rather than using rewards and punishment, which is external control. So whose behavior can the parent control?
Their own.
Only their own. So why would we not want to use rewards? This is the way we used to live all the time, was people would give us rewards. If you do this, I'll give you that. Okay, why not? Well, if Alfie Kohn wrote this book called Punished by Rewards, and it was one of his very highly researched programs. And he said there's several things that get in the way when we begin to use rewards. It's external control, and it impedes performance. Kids will only look for what someone else wants, not what they want. And they will not continue to do things if it doesn't seem to be, if they don't get any reward for it, even if it might be fun or exciting. They'll say, well, it's not worth it. If they don't think it's enough to give me a reward, it's not important. So it also hides the punitive side. So what happens is when you give a reward, then the next time they want something bigger and better. And it keeps getting bigger and better. I want more and more. I don't want just one Cheerio. I want a whole stack of Cheerios. I don't want just one toy. I want all the toys. So it creates negative relationships. It puts external control into their thinking, and thinking that that will work for them. And so they begin to perceive other people as obstacles to getting what they want. And because you're providing the reward, and they're not going to do it unless they get the reward. And if you're out there to give them a reward, it's not worth doing. So this is what happens when you leave the house and the kids, are on their own for 10 minutes while you go out to get the mail or whatever. You come back in and the whole place is demolished in, 5 minutes, because they don't care. Nobody's there to tell them to pick it up. They're not going to get a reward if they don't pick it, if they just let everything lay. And so they do. And then you come back in and say, okay, I'll give you, you can have a snack if you clean up the living room. Okay, now you're rewarding for control. And this is external control, which we have to stay away from. So the other pieces are it has the failure to uncover the source of the problem. The source of the problem is that need they're trying to meet. And when we use rewards, we're saying, meet my need and I'll reward you, not meet your need. So we have to look at whose needs are we asking them to pay attention to. And it erodes intrinsic motivation for long-term learning. So one of the other things I put on here, this other handout, was we know that James Gilligan wrote a book called Violence. And in his book, he did a study of the criminal justice system and the people in prison in New England states. And he said, and it was like a 10-year research program. And he said, the people that are in prison, what happened to them and how they perceived the world was that they did not feel accepted by the group. And when they didn't feel accepted by the group, they didn't know the behaviors or have the behaviors to deal effectively with that frustration that they felt. And many times they were ashamed of themselves. And being ashamed of yourself is probably the worst thing. And because that hurts us and mars our quality world, and therefore we start to get violent and we start to do violent things. So if we want to keep kids away from try to teach children to not be violent, we have to make sure that they're accepted, that we help them to learn a new behavior to get their needs met, and not to shame them or blame them. So that's kind of my little talk for the day. I hope that helps. But some of the references that I use to put this together. And so I'm going to get off my share here and we can talk a little bit.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Very, very good. Does anyone have a question to ask Nancy? Rose, you have a question?
Okay, so how, I'm gonna ask you a question. You guys come on, with your, take your mutes off. How do we teach a young child non-coercively to help them to learn to get their needs met? How can we help them to get new quality world pictures? And we're
Give
talking
them
about
information.
giving them information, but when a child is, say a child is unhappy or is not getting a need met, for instance, like they're fussing or whining, what can you do or say that won't be coercive?
I see that you're having a bad day. You seem so sad. How are
Okay.
you feeling?
All right.
Name the emotion.
All right. So you might name the emotion. All right. Does that help them to get what they want? It gets them some soothing. It gets them a little empathy. It gets them a little sympathy, maybe. And they feel like maybe you're going to pay attention, that you care. But does it teach them
Gotcha.
a new way?
Well, not until so I guess I'm doing the therapist thing. We build a relationship and then I go into, how are you feeling? What's going on? I ask questions and give information.
Right.
That's what I usually do.
Right. And then you can move to, if you're feeling that way, what are you thinking? And you can move around the other components of
And
behavior.
ask questions.
But to get them to choose something new, what can we do? The little kid's standing there and he's crying and saying, what can we do?
Play therapist
We can ask
distraction.
what the, Mhm.
Sharon?
You can ask what would help.
Yes. What will help?
Ask them what do you need?
Right? Or what do you want right now? Okay.
Do
That
you
you're
want
not
me to
getting.
hug you? Do you want me to, all those types of things.
Yes. So you can go through the needs with a real little child that doesn't really have a lot of words yet. You can go through the needs. Do you want mommy to give you a hug? Or do you want mommy to pick you up? Or so that would be love and belonging. Do you want me to help you? Would be power. Do you want me to leave you alone? Would be freedom. Do you want me to show you how? That would be fun or learning. And usually the whining will stop and the child will choose one of those and he'll go for it. And then that's the need he's trying to meet. And you're helping him to learn a new way. Okay. So you can teach a very young child this, and you can understand their cries by asking them, even though they don't have a lot of words yet and can't talk to you.
And that's the action is the distraction. So whatever it was they were wanting that they was unable to get, it helps them to refocus.
It helps them to refocus.
And reframe. Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Okay. Well, we will still be open. We will close out now from the recording, and Nancy will be and others will be glad to chat with you. So thank you very much. It was wonderful, and many blessings to all.